everyone, we're back with part 3 of this trip. With part 1 and 2, we've already gone through Merritt, Kelowna, Vernon, and ended up at the Nakusp Hot Springs. We also went to the McDonald Creek Provincial Park. After that, we decided to move to Syringa Provincial Park, and we visited cities like Nelson and Castlegar. As some people may know, I got an E1500 LFP power station from Percron. Percron asked me to try it out. There were no specific agreements or anything other than I get to keep it. And I did a review on that, which you might have seen, and I'll include a link in the description to this video of that review I did. But it really came in handy, and I'm glad they sent it to us. We had a problem with our RV where our 12-volt capabilities were having issues. It turns out it's a problem with the batteries, and we're getting them fixed under warranty. But in the meantime, our 12-volt system basically doesn't operate very well unless we're plugged into power, whether it's our generator or a pole. Talked about this earlier in part 1, I believe. So we decided to set up a cooler with this battery. That way, when we're driving along, we can keep all of our food cold and not have to rely on the 12-volt fridge in the RV. And the other thing is we can keep it attached to this really beefy power supply, and it'll last the whole day. And then at night, when we run the generator, we can recharge the battery. And that has been our plan. It has worked really well. One thing about the Percron power station has been its use as a charging kind of destination for all of our charging. Because it has so many different USB outlets, we end up using it as our go-to place. So in addition to keeping our cooler going through this whole RV trip, and again, with our 12-volt problems we have on board, my fridge is not reliable, and the cooler was a godsend, and especially because we had the Percron to keep it powered. We didn't have to rely on the trailer's power to keep our food cool. And I'm also using it here to charge my GoPro. We also used it for the drones. It's just a constant source of charging, and so I make sure to leave it really accessible when I'm on the road. I can just pull over, plug in whatever new device I just used up into the Percron and let it keep charging, and it's never once run out on this whole trip. So it has been pretty much the foundation, the solid rock of our week and a half long RV trip here. We actually had it turn off, that is, the cooler turned off, because it came unplugged. And as you can see, our dogs hang out down here by there, so it's easy for them to bump it, knock it out. So I said, oh, wait a minute, why don't I just switch it to AC mode? And I swapped out the adapter for the cooler from the DC adapter to the AC adapter. Now everything is snug, everything is good. And since we're charging this each night, this Percron each night, we hook up the generator, or if we stop at an RV park and we plug in, I'm not worried about running it down in the AC mode, even though it's probably going to use it a little faster than if it's in DC mode. We've got more than enough charge. I installed the app on my phone, so I'm able to watch the battery performance. So if I'm in the truck and I just want to check to see, hey, the cooler is on, right? I can look on here and it'll show me that the refrigerator is drawing AC power. Since it's the only thing plugged in, I know, yep, it's working. It's been a great trip, but now the third leg of this trip is the long drive home. Our trip home is going to take us on Highway 3, an historic highway here in BC that is also called the Crowsnest Highway. And the reason it's called the Crowsnest is because it goes so darn high. Now, I found this great graphic where somebody pieced together all the various passes that make up the Crowsnest Highway. You can see the tallest point is the Kootenay Summit, but we're not going to be going there. We're actually starting a little closer to Vancouver at the Castlegar area. So starting at Castlegar, we're going to go up over basically the Paulson Summit, which is a pretty steep road, you know. And then we go through Grand Forks. We go up another one that only goes up maybe, you know what, into the 3,000 to 4,000 feet area, or 1,000 meters. And we round back down, about halfway back down to between sea level and 5,000 feet. And then we rocket up through Manning Park, which is a whole nother series of summits. And eventually we're going to end up at Hope Slide. There are extreme grades that get up into the 8, 9, all the way up to 12% grade on this road. It's quite notorious for bad driving, so people end up taking risks on this road. They end up passing when they shouldn't. I've seen cars and trucks pass. Here's some footage. It's not my footage, but it shows a real classic situation. I saw some of these on my drive where people are just passing in inappropriate times and in very unsafe ways. To be honest, the locals, they know how to drive these kinds of roads, but you get these tourists and folks coming through who are not familiar with these rural roads, and they just don't understand the ebb and the flow of when you wait and when you go. Halfway through this summit, we're going to actually stop somewhere because we won't actually make it to Roadside in one day. We like to go slow. We've got a lot of stops to make, so we're going to stop somewhere in between, and we're not quite sure where yet. But when we set out, we weren't quite sure where we were going to stop. And that's one of our favorite ways to RV. For the record, when I see a vendor set up with some, custom smoke barbecue going on right then and there, I pretty much always stop. This stuff was pretty good. This wasn't a permanent location for this guy, so I didn't note the address here in the video. As the day wore on, we decided to turn in early when we hit the town of Greenwood, BC. This town has a unique blend of historic charm and outdoor adventure. It was originally founded in the 19th century, and the town boomed as a center for mining and smelting. It started to kind of die off, but then it had an odd comeback in World War II, where it ended up being one of the locations of Canada's World War II internment camps for Japanese. It's a lesser known part of Canadian history that during World War II, just like the US, the Canadians decided that the Japanese needed to be put in intern camps, which were basically concentration camps, and because they were worried about sabotage and the fact that we were now at war with Japan. I had the pleasure of talking to one of those World War II internees who grew up in this town and now maintains the Nikkei Center as you drive into town on the site of where there used to be camps and tents for the internment camp, and is also where the town has an RV park. So we ended up staying there in the RV spots hosted by the city for a small fee. I think it was $30 or so. And the next morning I got to meet Chuck, who told me a little bit about the internment camp and what it was like living in Greenwood, BC. So, and what was your name? What's your name?
Chuck.
Chuck. And tell us, Chuck, here, we're at the, is this pronounced Nikkei or?
Nikkei Legacy Park.
Gotcha. Tell us a little about it.
This is a internment camp that turned into or morphed into a community.
Yeah, and then this location is actually where the internment camp was located, as part of it.
This Greenwood was unique in that way because we were not segregated. We were not put into a camp. That's why I call it internment site rather than an internment camp. And eventually we all socialized and integrated, and it became a community. So this Greenwood never closed as an internment camp. Whereas the other camps, in 1945, the government said go east of the Rockies or Japan. And our mayor and the community fought for us to stay here. And we were not forced to relocate again. Okay, but originally it was Ohairi Park, which means please come in. But they thought it meant welcome, but Yokoso means welcome. And to me, the Nikkei word is of Japanese ancestry, and it's more international. Therefore, I asked the city if I could change the name to Nikkei Legacy Park. And of course, more people will drop in because they're familiar with the word Nikkei rather than Ohairi. And so I started the family plaque program here so that I wanted the former Greenwood people to return and teach their children and grandchildren about the history. Plus, I also have the old-time families, like the Caucasian families who came here in the early 1900s. They even have their family plaque because we integrated so well. We got along very well. We went to school, got married, dated and all that. And so I wanted to show that Greenwood, with the acceptance, integration, and harmony.
If you get a chance to come through Greenwood, make sure you put some time aside to stop here at the park itself and check out the town. It's a really unique experience here in Canada, yet it's inherently Canadian at the same time. That's what's so great about it. All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
As we left town, we stopped at one of the cafes on the way out to get some muffins and coffee. And they even had some sort of charity pancake breakfast going on. You gotta love those small town communities. Along the way, we found this interesting tunnel. We've seen it before, and I finally stopped to figure out why it was there. And it turns out there used to be a railroad grade that would cut across the road here. So the original little road that used to come through here would actually go through this tunnel, while a railroad grade would go over the top. Once I looked around and read the sign, it kind of made more sense. But there was some great graffiti in there, and I guess there's a half pipe set up so kids can skateboard. Definitely an odd thing to just see sitting on the side of the road. After leaving Greenwood and driving through some other towns, we ended up dropping into what is the steepest drop that I know of on the Crowsnest, which is dropping into Osoyoos from above. On both sides of Osoyoos, it can be a little steep, but coming in from the Greenwood side, it is exceptionally steep, and there's no way to do it without throwing on the hazards and holding up some cars that want to get by. Osoyoos is nestled on the shores of Canada's warmest freshwater lake with the same name. It has a rich history that stretches back thousands of years. Indigenous people, primarily the Okanagan people, have inhabited the area for millennia. They left behind petroglyphs and traditional stories that speak to their deep connection with the land. European settlers arrived in the mid-1800s, drawn by fur trade and later for promises of gold. Today, Osoyoos is transformed into a popular resort town known for its sunshine, wineries, outdoor activities, and fruit stands. It's one of the first places each year that you can get stone fruit in Canada. One of the towns nearby is called Peachland. Now, while Osoyoos caters to tourists' its vibrant atmosphere, it has pockets of history. Visitors can explore the Osoyoos Desert Center, which delves into the unique desert ecosystem found in this part of Canada. And the Osoyoos Indian Band operates the Nikamip Desert Cultural Center. They also have a Nikamip RV park, campground that is quite vast and well known. The Cultural Center showcases traditional Okanagan culture and the history that Osoyoos offers, a glimpse into the fascinating blend of indigenous history, early settler stories, and the modern resort experience. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to stay at a rest area, it might as well be a nice one like this. I know I've talked about Hope Slide before. It's just a lot easier for us to come home in the morning, beat the morning traffic on a Sunday, unload, still have our Sunday ahead of us. So you'll see us do this a lot when we're doing a multi-week vacation, is we don't get home Sunday evening. We try to get home Sunday morning. We think we're going to get home Saturday night, but then we decide to stretch out the vacation one more day. And we end up here. It's free, it's easy, it's changing. I know they're building stuff near here soon, so I wonder how long Hope Slide will be available to us. But that's it. That's a week and a half of RVing. We went all around central BC here, or south central BC. Of course, we had to abandon our big trip up to the Yukon to make this happen. But if this was the alternative, I mean, I'm not complaining. It's been a really nice, relaxing time. Got to check out some new areas, some new towns, and I'm already planning the next trip. So we're trying to figure out whether it's going to be out to Alberta or whether I try to redo the northern trip. Alberta is always nice because it's flat, it's cheap, and we have friends out there. But we also you know, still have sort of that unfinished business of going up to Stewart, BC, and Hyder, Alaska, check out the Salmon Glacier. I think I might want to do it. However, if I do it now in July, August, we'll be dealing with a lot more mosquitoes and flies. So let's hope my wife doesn't hear that. So don't forget to like, subscribe. Please share this channel. I know most of you are here for RVs Gone Wild. You're going to see more of those again. We stopped making them for a few weeks while we were traveling, but I got a whole backlog here of cool RVs to put on RVs Gone Wild, and we've got more camping trips coming up. So please make sure to subscribe. Thanks for following along. I'd love to hear any ideas you have. Send them our way. See you later, everybody.